What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us for the Here's the Deal podcast. My name's Dominic, and I am joined today for the first time ever on December 16th, 2025.
Whoa.
Everybody, Kyle's here.
Hey. Welcome to 2025, everybody.
This is being done in the future. A future that is darker than you could have ever imagined.
Dominic got some new equipment for the podcast, and it allows us to jump time.
Yep, and it's called the Time Warp Jump Timer, and we were
terrible
able.
Name.
I didn't name it. The brand name
Company did.
Casio. They used to make pianos, and now they are making time warp time
Probably
jumpers.
better use of their skills.
And so, but
So it is 2024.
it is still 2024.
Unless you are listening to this in 2025, which is a possibility. A
That
lot
is
of
the
people
crazy
go back
thing
and
about.
they'll check out the archive someday.
Somebody's listening to this right now, and we are already. Brazil is taking over the world.
We've blown your mind.
And everybody's looking back going, do you remember when those stupid drones were over New Jersey? If we would have just shot them down.
We got to have a podcast on that.
Yeah. And we'll
Maybe
call it
next
Drone
week.
Wars.
The week of Christmas, we'll talk about the drones in New Jersey.
And
It's
we'll
like
call
Santa.
Or the
Which we talked about last time.
or the healthcare guy getting shot.
Yep.
Let's just always be a month behind on the stories.
Let's do it.
And we go to the healthcare guy getting shot because of big insurance. If anything's bad, it's big. It's like,
We had this discussion. There was, because we talked about Big Pharma.
do you think it started with a big bad wolf?
I think it started with the Big Bang.
And it was bad.
Yeah,
Because it's
Earth
not
was pretty
real.
Terrible. Oh. Anyway,
And so,
you know what? All this talk, it's getting me down.
so take some strokes gained.
That's not where I was
and,
going.
Take strokes gained. If you're feeling sad today, you may just be dehydrated. And you need strokes gained. This is the watermelon drink packet. We also have the Lumina Lime. And Travis Key and them boys are doing some great work over at Strokes Gained. Check out all the description below so you can get a special discount using our code and using our URL, okay? Carry on.
That was good to throw that in there because we usually forget, and it's the very end of the podcast, and you've already hit the outro music, and we have to hurry up and mention them. So now we just got that part done.
Yeah. A part that we love.
Yep, and we'll probably do it again later.
Yep. And so, speaking of being sad, and maybe hydration won't fix it, go.
What a setup. No, so Christmas is oftentimes notated as the most wonderful time of the year, right? Mm-hmm. Lots of holly jolly, lots of excitement, lots of festivity. It's all about gifts and excitement and gathering everybody together. You're focusing on helping others and being with family and being around those you love. And there's just the realization and the reality that there are, for some people, the holidays are hard. You know, if you've lost someone recently or ever, it just seems to be magnified more when everyone is so focused on hanging out with family and loved ones. It just makes it that much more glaringly obvious that you've lost that one that you love. Or maybe these last couple of years or this year has just been a tough year financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically. Maybe you've just got the cancer diagnosis or something like that. And as everyone in the world seems to be celebrating around you, you kind of feel like, my heart's not there. My heart's not in it. And I think that's a valid reality that we live in.
Yeah. I think it also has something to do with the darkness of like even like the time of year. Like it gets darker earlier. There's this thing called seasonal affect disorder.
Sad. Oh, is that the punchline?
No, that's what it's called. And I think everything it's colder outside. You're not going outside as much. It's cloudy. It's dreary. It gets darker earlier. And as a result, it can cause more of a stunk.
Sure. I mean, and you mentioned like the time of the year, the season that we're in, how the sun works. or how the earth rotates around the sun. We are at this time of the year where daylight is shorter. The sun set at like 4:30 yesterday. Like, that's just kind of depressing.
Yeah.
By the time you get out of church and you go to lunch and then you watch a little football and you take a nap, you wake up and it's dark outside.
Yeah.
Like, well, I just took a nap. I guess I'll just go back to bed.
Yeah.
Which I may or may not have done. But there's something to that, because take a place like Alaska, for instance. They got these weird daylight things. Like, they have the
Aurora Borealis.
And I don't think that's it. But they have this thing, I forget what it's called, like the long night or whatever, where the sun will set, and then the sun won't rise there for another, 2 months. Or they have these times where, the sun will be out for maybe 30 minutes a day,
What a
and then
terrible
you have 23
thing to
hours of
experience.
darkness. Well, but I mean, there's psychological issues that are tied to that. Like, the suicide rates in Alaska are just much higher than anywhere else in the country.
That's
Which
why when
seems
we
hard to
take
believe,
over,
because Alaska doesn't have that many people.
when we take over Canada and make it the 51st state, like Donald Trump wants to do, I think that we
It'd be
should
a huge state. You got to break it up into smaller ones, right? Hey.
I think we should, if we would take that and we just call it, change it from Canada to New Alaska. And we just make Alaska, we just drill there. We just drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill.
And because who cares if it's dark outside when you're getting oil?
Shoo.
But all these things do lead and lend themselves to be, to not make it, it's hard when it's warm outside, it's sunny outside. It makes it more difficult. But especially during this time, it all comes together as this cornucopia of different things that lead us to what can be called Blue Christmas.
Yeah. And I think so kind of just what we're talking about is there's kind of been a movement of the church to speak into this. Like, I think for years and maybe centuries, it's been like, okay, you're feeling bad, but it's like, don't mess up Christmas. Just hold it in and don't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Don't let them see.
Be the good girl you always have to be.
Conceal, don't feel. Hide in all your emotions, keep them inside, because it's Christmas and you can't ruin Christmas with your sadness.
Yeah.
But now I think there's been a shift, and at least ministry-wise, and as of like the 80s and 90s, there's been this little thing called Blue Christmas that a church can do, or a community, but I think it was birthed in the church, in this need to acknowledge that this is real. There's pain out there.
Yeah.
And let's not run from that. Like, you can have both. It kind of creates a false dichotomy.
Yeah.
If it's like, let's celebrate Jesus' birth or celebrate being sad. There's no way we can do both.
Yeah.
And it's like, can't you though?
Yeah.
So anyway, this all started when I was at Dollywood,
Nationally syndicated radio and
Theme park.
Theme park.
And as an employee there, they have a great employee care operation. They have a wellness team, and part of that was every Christmas they would host a Blue Christmas service for all the employees who were just kind of feeling a little bummed.
Yeah.
And they would come together, and it's just a time of quiet, meditative reflection, and you can share if you feel led to, and you're just surrounded by other people who are in the same boat. So if nothing else, you're reminded you're not alone. There's literally other people that feel the same way you do.
Yeah.
And this is a secular company. Now, Dollywood is great. That part of their the owners are Christians, and they operate in a manner consistent with Christian values and ethics. That's part of their tagline.
Yeah.
But it's not the church. It's not a church.
Right.
So they have to kind of be careful about how much of a Jesus they can infuse into it, but it's certainly part of it.
Right.
But I saw that and experienced it and was like, this is kind of cool. It'd be cool if the church did that. So last year, we were sitting around at staff meeting about this time, and we said, I just threw out the idea of like, hey, this is something Dollywood used to do. I think we should do something like that. And we did it. We just kind of pulled the trigger, and we're like, this is cool. Let's do this. And so we had our first ever Blue Christmas service last year, and we had pretty good turnout. 75 people or so came out, and it's very stripped down. Not a full band, not a light show. It's a chance to be something different than Sunday mornings. And so historically, the Blue Christmas service is held on the night of the winter solstice. Which is the longest night in our calendar year. So every day you get a little bit more sunlight or a little less sunlight, just
Yeah.
depending on, again, as the Earth is rotating and working its way around. And so the winter solstice is that day. It usually falls around the 21st of December, which for us this year would be on a Saturday night. Well, we're
Yeah.
not going to have the Saturday night service, so we're just going to do it on Thursday, the 19th. But it's this idea of let's come together and acknowledge that there's a darkness in our souls
Yeah.
and in our lives. And so let's come together on the very darkest night. And what's cool about that is knowing that as that service ends, as you go to bed, as you wake up the next morning, from that moment on, there's going to be more and more light each day.
Right.
That's kind of this, because that's the longest night. So from that point on, the night gets shorter and shorter and shorter for the whole another year until
Yeah.
you're back at it again. So it's just kind of a cool, there's a lot of symbolism there, and I think it's well done. So yeah, that's just kind of what we wanted to talk about today, was just that there's an acknowledgement that, hey, sometimes the holidays are hard, and, we acknowledge that is real. And knowing that even in that, and especially in that, I would argue, all the more reason to hone in on Jesus, to cling to Him, to find your hope in Him, not in your circumstances.
Yeah.
And this is the difference between when we talk about God's desire for us as Christians to live with joy.
Yeah.
Joy does not equal happiness.
Yeah.
All the time. Joy certainly can be happy, but joy is that feeling of there is peace, there is comfort, there is rest, and I'm content, and God is still good, even if the things around me in my life maybe aren't in this moment. You trust that He has got a plan, and everything works together for the good of those who love Him and have been called according to His purpose.
Yeah. I think when we think through Blue Christmas and we think about this time, it also allows us to be more charitable to others if you're not careful. My favorite Christmas movie, of course, is The Grinch with Jim Carrey. Mm-hmm. And if we're not... that's it. I'm not going. 5 o'clock exercise. And so I love that movie. I think it's great. It's a great movie. Jim Carrey, it was his best work.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I watch that and I go, man, when all the Who's are bustling around Whoville, that the dad will occasionally forget the daughter exists and we will miss out on people. And Cindy Lou Who is just sitting there going like, where are you, Christmas? And he's like everybody's just going so fast. It's all about the presents. It's this. And all the while, the Grinch is up in Mount Crumpet and Blue Christmas is as real to anybody as it is to the Grinch.
Yeah. And
it was a terrible time for him because remember he tried to make that gift for Martha May and it didn't go well and so you have this and then finally someone just notices the Grinch. Mm-hmm. And what really begins the transformation in his life is in one of the darkest seasons that comes around every single year. In the darkest seasons, no one cared for the Grinch. And they were so busy that they couldn't even see each other, let alone those who were hurting. And so in a Blue Christmas setting and a season, if you don't do this at your church, man, I encourage you to look into it. But also just as you go, being more sensitive to the Spirit as you think through, there's people right now who are hurting. There are people out there who this time of the year, I remember for me, for the longest time, my parents my dad left my mom on New Year's Day. And so that used to be a big issue for me. And it was a hard season to go, man, every time this comes around, it's a reminder. Our brains and our bodies work in such a weird way that there's sometimes when hard things happen around Christmas, it's the smells of Christmas trees. It's those things that help erupt that in our brains. I was even talking with people recently who struggle with anxiety, who struggle with depression, who struggle. I have friends of mine who struggle with self-harm. And it is harder than ever before to live with it during the Christmas season. they tend to hurt themselves more. They tend to, whatever their destructive habit is to do it more, and it tends to be a more difficult time. And so we also have to be aware of those who we know who hurt, that to be more aware of them this season, whether you have a Blue Christmas service or not, to be able to see people for who they are and where they're at in the midst of their hurting, in the midst of their pain. And if you are not careful, you and I will be the Who's of Whoville, and we'll go so fast that we never see the Grinch. And then we'll be shocked when we go, oh, wait, the Grinch was here the whole time? I completely forgot about him. I was buying my Kirk Plunkett,
Fahu Fores, man.
Yeah, Fahu Fores.
Fores. Dahu Dores. John 3:16. Latin.
I'll tell you right now, I've never seen anything more biblically accurate than the Grinch.
It's really good. Do you think they missed it by not making him blue? He's green.
No, I think it.
Is that more like envy?
I think it is a stark contrast to. I would like a Grinch origin story, like of the Grinches, because where in the world did he come from? If Whoville is just on a snowflake.
Yeah.
And do they die every year?
Yeah, his origin is that floating down.
He
from the
took out
because that's
that
the
thing.
story they told.
Yeah, but where the origin of Grinches? Like,
right.
Where did he come from? Like, where was he on another snowflake and he popped out that snowflake and went into the other snowflake? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think those are things that we really need to get to the bottom of. And if you elect me mayor of Sevier County, I will fight.
Week.
And so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So be aware of people, see people.
Yeah.
And
this Christmas season, don't get so caught up in the busyness
that you miss people.
Yeah.
We talk about missing. We talk about that there's times that we will miss Jesus, but we can't. We have to see and celebrate Jesus, but we also have to see and care for people.
And if you're the one that's going through that and you're just feeling like, man, it's been rough, it's been tough, let that grow your affection for Jesus. May it wean you off of what this world has to offer. This world is broken. This world is stained and tainted by sin. But we know that Christ has overcome all of that. And one day there will be a time of no more hurt, no more pain. He will wipe away every tear from our eyes for those of us who are in him. So that is a hope. That's what we celebrate at Christmas. So even if you can't get with the holly jolly and the Santa and the holiday, celebrate the fact that God loved us enough to send his son to die for us, to save us so that we could spend an eternity in his presence where there is perfection and fullness of joy for all eternity.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. This is a short one, but I think a necessary one to encourage everybody this season to keep your eyes on Jesus, but also as you're walking towards Jesus, look around you and see those who are maybe struggling.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you so much for. I thought that was coming out of this. It caught me. Hey, thank you guys so much for checking us out. For real, check out if you're looking for some last-minute stocking stuffers, for some stuff for your family, for that athlete, or for that dehydrated dad on your list. Make sure that you partner with us as we partner with Strokes Gain. Travis Key and them boys are doing a great job. Have a Merry Christmas. We'll have a show for you next week as well. Like always, share, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for checking out the Here's the Deal podcast.